2022. What a weird and crazy ride it's been for feature films, of which I've seen 30. Most of them are animated, but there's some live action sprinkled in there too. And I finally got to make a proper ranking video for all these films. Something I planned to do with the 2021 films I watched, but during scripting that video, I had more important things in my life, like moving out of my old house. Twice. But what's important now that I finally got to do a ranking of this year's films. Thanks to the plethora of editors who lend their skills to help out of the kindness of their hearts. So let's go see which movies are great and will surely stand the test of time. And let's go see what movies are Pinocchio a true story.
Father, when can I leave to be on my own? I've got the whole world to see.
But hey, at least I enjoyed half of the 30 films I saw. But the other half... Also, I watched Morbius while editing this video. It's really bad. So imagine it as the 31st movie on this list. I don't feel like editing it. It's really not worth it. But without further ado, let's go into the films I watched in 2022, ranked from worst to best. P.S. Make sure to like and subscribe. I have more videos like this coming soon. I cannot stress enough how absolutely terrible Pinocchio True Story is. It's so bad that I'd rather just pretend it does not exist, but fuck it. The characters are so one-note and boring. Their arcs are so predictable and boring. The story is so shitty, and clearly feels like they were writing as they went. And the dialogue is so otherworldly bad.
Just as I thought, nothing.
I know it's a Devil Russian film, but dear God, is it terrible. The voice acting is shit. And the film really wants to stretch it out as long as it can physically be. The movie feels like it's 3 hours long. Out of the big 3 Pinocchio films that came out this year, this is easily the worst.
Bullshit. Bullshit. Derivative.
Let's just meme the father line and just move on from this shitty cash grab. And that's it, moving on. I don't want to waste that much time on this movie.
I'm the biggest dog around.
Fine. Marmaduke is a movie, and a bad one at that. I only decided to watch this because all my Twitter mutuals decided to watch it too. I really don't know why, but fuck it. It's Marmaduke in time. Hopefully seeing footage of this movie will explain why I have it so low on this list. Like, it looks like pure ass. The designs look on par, if not worse, than the animated Addams Family reboot. The story structure is wonky, the characters are boring, and the voice acting is cheeks.
Our dog's a loser!
I can turn your dog into a champion.
And honestly, I fell asleep while watching it as well. It's just bad. That's it, moving on.
If it's not fun, why bother?
Congratulations, Disney. You shut down an entire animation studio that you just brought with your Fox buyout and put thousands of animators out of a job. But not only that, you then decide to make sequels of their franchises for no reason but to promote your shitty streaming service. Ice Age 6 is bad. Go figure. It's boring. The characters are bland and annoying. The story is shit. And honestly, I forgot most of this damn movie. The animation is complete ass. Look how they massacre my boy. Sid looks like a fucking Muppet. I wanna die. That ass Jimmy Neutron looks better. Honestly, I don't even know what else to say. And I don't want to spend that much time on it. Just fuck Disney for closing down Blue Sky Studios, and also fuck them for constantly pumping out these shitty Disney Plus original films. They suck ass. Hot take. I really don't like the Hotel Transylvania films. I kind of think they're really bland from a storytelling point and have very annoying and unengaging characters. And the 4th film isn't that different. For some reason, Drac cannot stand Johnny in this movie.
Aha, Jonathan, you are banging my dog!
Even though he warmed up to him in the first movie, and was even teaming up with him in the last 2 movies. Yeah, no, he just hates him now. And honestly, I don't blame him. Johnny is like really annoying in this movie. It legitimately makes me want to side with Drac. The other characters are just there. The story is really boring.
Oh, that's weird. Nothing happened.
The animation is not good. The new voice actor to Drac really did a good job, even though I think it's mostly because of the fact that Adam Sandler did a really bad performance in the first 3 films to begin with, but no one still did a really good job. But overall, it's still a bad movie. Please, Sony, don't make any more of these. You've been making absolutely fantastic movies without this franchise.
The only place to experience Transformania is in a movie theater, October 1st.
You get no bitches!
Lightyear. I've only believed that Pixar had only made 2 films that I'd flat out call bad. Now thanks to Lightyear, I now have 3. Wowee! Lightyear is ass.
Dog.
The movie is framed as the film that Andy saw that made him want a Buzz Lightyear toy. If this is that movie, Andy has some pretty shit taste. The Buzz in this movie is not entertaining to watch as his toy version. His design sucks, and his dialogue is so bland.
You're mocking me, aren't you?
They have him say iconic lines from the Toy Story films, and it comes off as shameless nostalgia bait.
Buzz Lightyear to Star Command. Come in, Star Command. Seems a bit. Star Command, come in. Seems to be no sign of intelligence.
Not today, sir!
I would be lying if I said that the first 30-ish minutes weren't interesting. Having Buzz watch his friend rapidly age right in front of him is very intriguing to watch, and the final message she left for Buzz from her is actually emotionally effective. But once he has to tag along with this ragtag team of inexperienced losers, it really gets boring really fast. This crew is not interesting or entertaining at all. They're designed like action figures. There's a guy that's obsessed with this pen in his spacesuit.
Oh, I know this one! It's the pen!
Not only that running gag is unfunny, but he is also unfunny. I honestly can't remember a single character trait or line of dialogue from the grandma character. And the Keke Palmer character, voiced by Keke Palmer, is the most character ever. None of these characters' arcs are interesting. They're cliche and bland. And the twist villain at the end is actually terrible. Spoiler, by the way, skip ahead to here, I guess. So the third act, Zurg is revealed to be an older Buzz from the future, and his plan is to use Buzz Power Crystal to go back in time and stop Buzz from crash landing on this planet. Buzz is against this plan because people have adapted to this change, and going back in time would change their lives? ? Even though they could still have these lives on Earth. So not like Buzz and his team is trying to stop Grandpa Buzz in this most boring and forgettable action scene ever. And the pen guy gets to use his pen to open something I honestly kind of forgot. It's really boring. Lightyear is a shitty cash grab. I have no desire to watch it ever again. The only other thing I liked in this movie was Socks. And even then, I forget that he's in the movie most of the time.
You know what this reminds me of? That robot cat from that mid-Pixar movie that came out not too long ago. What was it called again? Oh yeah!
But besides that, it's really bad. Don't watch it.
I got 99 problems, but a witch ain't one.
Hocus Pocus 2 is not good.
No! It can't be! No!
That's about it. It doesn't have the charm like the 90s movie did, and isn't legitimately or ironically funny in its own right. It's just a forgettable mess that I'll easily forget about after this video. And that's it. Moving on.
A man I personally believe to be a very, very gifted actor. GQ's international man is Mr. Chris Pine.
Disney has yet again made another terrible, shameless, lazy live-action remake to one of their animated classics.
Hello, Pops.
Pinocchio is terrible. Who would have known? I have no idea what they tried to do with Pinocchio's character in this version. He's pretty much a saint in this movie. He decided to go to school. He didn't want to go to Pleasure Island. He doesn't even do bad things in Pleasure Island. Did they want him to seem more likable or something? But by doing that, It makes the lesson that he learns seem pointless. He basically already knows right from wrong already. So why isn't he just a real boy from the beginning? Especially since it's left ambiguous as to if he turned into a real boy or not. Like, if any version of Pinocchio deserved to become a real boy, it's this one. So that was weird. They also extend the runtime with pointless characters and scenes that add nothing of value to the script. Like, what did the paraplegic girl add? What? Not to mention that the pacing is so slow. The original movie is only like an hour and a half. What does adding 30 minutes of filler do for this movie? At least Tom Hanks gave a somewhat entertaining performance. Whether if it was good or bad, I don't know. And the score was okay, I guess. I like the design of Pinocchio himself, even though the movie has really bad tracking. It also has bad effects too, but let's not get into that. But either way, it's still better than Pauly Shore.
Oh, I know this one. It's Chris Pine.
It's the return of the king, tut, preserved from the crown that the beast nuts.
I don't even know what to feel anymore. Night at the Museum, Rise of King Tut, or whatever. This has to be a backdoor pilot or something to an upcoming TV series. The animation is fine for TV standards. The premise is decent for TV standards. That's it. Like, that is it. The movie is the most bland mush ever. It's the pure definition of filler. Filler for a streaming service. Honestly, there's nothing else to say. This movie is so forgettable and I'm not rewatching it. Moving on.
Greg Heffley, please do not say the N-word in my classroom. Hey, fuck you!
Surprise, surprise! Surprise, surprise! Roderick Rules isn't good. It's a bit better than the first movie, but it's not really saying much. Similar to the first movie, I found myself furious at all the changes they made.
You are not the guy. You're not capable of being the guy. I had a guy, but now I don't. You are not the guy.
Greg blackmailing Roderick in this version removes all the genuine bond they had in the 2011 version. And it makes Greg look like a total dick. The party scene has Greg in the basement the whole night, instead of sneaking midway through the night. It kind of takes away the first moment when they genuinely have a brotherly bond. And the talent show at the end. Holy fuck. It really makes Greg look like a complete asshole. And it just beats down Roderick for no reason. He's in tears. Like, wow.
Oh, I feel like a...
That scene is actually terrible. The movie also has really bad pacing. I was legitimately surprised to find out this movie is only a little over an hour. It felt like I was watching it for 3 fucking hours. I guess whenever Greg and Roderick has an actual bond in this movie, it's sweet, I guess. Even if it never feels natural. Ed Eisner, rest in peace, was really sweet to see here, I suppose. Kinda wish he was in a better movie for his last role. And if there's anything I actually liked in this movie, it's the new detail that their dad doesn't really see his brother anymore. Which leads to Greg feeling scared that the same will happen to him and Roderick. It does leave Frank to be unfairly antagonistic towards Roderick for some reason. Like, that's your own son. But the scene near the end at the parking lot is pretty sweet. But I wish everything leading up to it was more earned. I don't really hate this film per se. It's just really unmemorable and really pointless. Just like the first movie. Just watch the live action masterpiece instead. But with that all done, we're done with the bad movies. Now it's just for the mediocre ones.
Mediocre?
It's probably gonna take a while.
Mr. Beast!
Alright, this might be the first real controversial take in this video, and I'm probably gonna get a lot of hate for this, but hey, why not? The Sea Beast is really mediocre. I feel like it has good intentions, and the animation's really stellar, but it's kind of dragged down by its really lackluster story. It moves at a snail's pace, and the characters doesn't make it engaging at all. The orphan girl feels so cliche and has been done before so many times in different films. She's determined, she's optimistic, she's constantly butting heads with the other main character. We've seen these archetypes so many times before. And the main character... what the hell is his name? Jacob. Yeah, Jacob. He's also full of cliches. He's always dismissing... Damn it, what's that girl name? Macy's? Yeah, Macy's. He's always dismissing Macy's ideas and options, wanting to actively get rid of her, and overall thinking she's a nuisance. These characters are just filled with these generic cliches that have been done before, so many times. And even better, maybe if it had an interesting enough story to make up for it, but it really doesn't. Not only is it really boring and uneventful, it's also derivative of other animated films. The girl and the beast has a bond and learn more about each other, just like in How to Train Your Dragon. The inexperienced girl and well-trained sailor man traverse through the sea, just like in Moana. It just gets so unengaging to the point that you start wondering why not just watch those films, since they're literally the same. Again, it probably has good intentions, but it's really not good at telling an engaging story. Definitely not bad though. I can at least willingly sit through this than the previous films on this list, but it's still painfully mid.
You dance irritating fairy tale things.
No.
Disenchanted was very mid. It doesn't really have the funny tone or wit of the original. The 2D animation is kinda bad. It looks like it's animated 12 frames per second for some reason. And his story is very generic. Most of the songs are forgettable, except for the villain duet. That's a fucking bop. Overall, it's nothing egregious, but nothing really good. Moving on.
I wished I could go
Wendell and
wild. The
Wendell-land.
wild? What?
Man, I am so disappointed in the untapped potential of Wendell and Wild. It should sound like a slam dunk. A PG-13 animated horror film, directed by Henry Selick, same director of The Nightmare Before Christmas and Coraline, with Jordan Peele producing it, from movies like Get Out and this year's Nope, which I haven't seen. Sign me the fuck up. And then I watched it, and it was a mid-disaster. The pacing was off, the cinematography was bland at times, and it had way too many characters and plot points. I've said it so many times before, but this movie feels like it has 20 acts. Like you have Kat dealing with her inner struggles. You have the intellectual Wendell and Wild trying to leave the compounds of their job and run away to the human realm to make their own amusement park. You got the transgender kid doing things I honestly forgot. I don't even think it comes into play later. You got the villains who are not Wendell and Wild for some reason, wanting to demolish the whole suburban neighborhood town in order to build a mega prison. What? And there's a bunch of side characters trying to squeeze themselves in. It's too much. It's just too much. It makes it very hard to follow, and no character leaves an impression on you because they have no time to. I have a friend that also watched this movie, and she made a very great point. This should have been just a mini-series instead of a movie. It would have worked a lot better. And I'm probably in the minority here, but I do not like the lines in between the cheeks and the eyes. It makes the puppet look more cheap than appealing, and it just disappoints me that this wasn't the classic I was hoping for. It's nothing special, but don't let me discourage you from watching it. And hey, it's at least not bad. I would willingly sit through it again even though I might be bored doing so.
I'm in Ohio, swag like Ohio.
Strange World sure is a movie. After making a goddamn banger with Encanto the year prior, Disney just kind of fumbled the bag with this movie. Alright, to start off with some positives. The world building is cool. The strange world itself is very imaginative and really cool to traverse to.
The really big eye.
Yeah.
And it's looking right at us.
I like the designs of the cast. It goes for more classic Disney style than the samey doll face that the past couple of Disney films have. The son character is gay and has a love interest. That's cool. Especially since they devote more time talking about his crush in this movie.
It's not easy being a new parent. My girlfriend's daughter got me pulling my hair out, okay? Oh.
It's really nothing groundbreaking or anything, especially if we're comparing this to animation on television. But hey, it's something, I guess. Okay, on to not so good things. This movie has some not so good characters. Searcher, seriously, who names their kid Searcher, is not a good protagonist. Unlike someone like Mirabel and Kanto, Searcher doesn't really have an interesting struggle to follow, and he's not that entertaining to watch. His struggle stems from his relationship with both his father and his son. This honestly just leads to them bickering with each other, and it starts to get annoying after a while.
I appreciate your appreciation, but maybe you appreciate
You're
me
for my son,
and respect my
something you
wishes.
could never do.
Maybe you should step out of my
It is blatantly obvious that they want to tackle generational trauma in this movie, even though that it was also tackled not only in Encanto, but also Turning Red. But with those movies, they subtly showed the cracks in the foundation of their family, and also see later on how it got that way. And here, the movie makes it very clear what's wrong with their family from the get-go, to the point that you basically already know what the ending message is going to be. And while something like Encanto has a very unique and interesting arc for Bella and Mirabel, this movie has arcs comparable to Space Jam's 2's. It's really bland, and the other characters aren't really better. Admittedly, they're better than the stupid-ass Lightyear gang, but they basically only have one character trait, like Mom, President, Dog. It's like the gang from Big Hero 6, but at least with those people, they have slightly more interesting and entertaining single character traits. Still single character traits, but they're at least interesting. And oh yeah, Splat is meh.
So cute. I want to merchandise it.
I don't hate him or anything, but he kind of feels forced into this. He's at least entertaining to watch, mostly because of the animation on him, but still entertaining. There's a twist near the end of the movie, and it's a pretty clever twist to be honest, even if it would have been better if it was established from the start. Had the whole movie revolved around this idea. Either way, this movie's gonna be used by school science teachers from now on. It is better than the other post-Moana films, at least.
Look how close my butt is to my head.
Excluding Encanto, of course. It's not as bad as Ralph Shits the Internet. It's not as confusing or rushed as Frozen 2.
Now I know it's not.
It's more interesting than Raya.
How close my butt.
And also, it has the greatest cinematic line ever. This giant eye might be its eye.
Mommy, is the
giant eye
going to eat us? Yes, Charlie! Yes, he will!
The hierarchy of power in the DC universe is about to change.
The Bruce is loose. Okay, I got that out of my system. Going in, I thought I was gonna hate DC League of Super Pets. It looks so bad and generic. But after watching it, it was surprisingly decent. I'm kinda shocked, honestly. But it was perfectly passable. Of course, there's some not so good things. There's a few groan-worthy moments with toilet humor and bland dog jokes.
How much did you have to drink?
I had 2 toilet bowls and a bidet. Bidet too. It's crazy. I didn't even know that was a thing.
And there's some lame pop culture references too.
What is this, Paw Patrol?
Yeah, those type of jokes just make me roll my eyes. And these designs kinda suck, not gonna lie. Except for Green Lantern, cause damn. But besides all of those problems, I didn't mind this movie. The characters just had a good, charming dynamic with each other, especially Rock Dog and Kevin Hart Dog. The movie can have an occasional funny joke.
What just happened?
No, seriously, what just happened? I can't see.
And this movie actually has some solid themes, and a good arc for Rock Dog learning to let go of Superman. It's actually really well developed too. And there's this flashback with Kevin Hart Dog and his previous owner, and it's actually pretty good. Like, this movie knows how to write good arcs and developments for its characters. It's really admirable, but it also sucks because it's stuck with a painfully average kids movie, with boring and juvenile comedy, bland animation, and bad character designs, except for Green Lantern. Also, the villain's pretty lame too.
Paw Patrol?
It's not a good movie, but it's not bad either. It's middle of the road. It's a 5 out of 10. Also, there's this orange cat in this movie that gets killed, and then states,
I still have 8 more lives.
That might be foreshadowing for later on this list, but I don't know, you tell me.
Start the new rescue helicopter!
Hey, remember when everyone praised Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers back when it first came out? Then everyone collectively decided to shit on it a couple months later? Yeah, I still kind of like it. Admittedly, not as much as I did back when it first released, but it's still a charming and cute time waster. Even though the story isn't as engaging or cleverly written as it wants to be, the characters don't really leave that much of an impact, and the film relying heavily on
"Hey, remember this?
Hey, remember that?" Yeah, that humor is kinda lame. Also, not to mention the controversy around the villain Peter Pan, which is something I really don't want to get into. But even then, it's still a pretty fun movie. Unlike movies like Space Jam 2 or Ready Player One, this movie at least uses the This movie at least uses the crossover concept for unique world building, and it doesn't really feel like an advertisement like those films because it has non-Disney characters as well. And there's some cute lines of dialogue about the film and television industry, and most of the time it doesn't feel out of touch. And I'm sorry, but I like it when I get the dopamine in my brain whenever I see a character I know. Also, having Ugly Sonic in this movie was and forever will be absolute cinema. So, for what it's worth, it's a harmless little film. I had some fun with it, even though it's not particularly good. If you want this movie but actually written fantastically, just go watch Who Framed Roger Rabbit. But this movie is a 6 out of 10. It's fine. That's it, moving on.
My, you have big balls.
Paws of Fury, baby!
Woo! Yeah, baby!
Paws of Fury is the best movie ever made. I loved it when they said it's pawn time. I nearly shedded a tear while watching. Just great stuff. 10 out of 10. Okay, for real. This movie was just alright. I've never seen Blazing Saddles, the movie that they're parodying, so I don't know if watching it would change my opinion on this movie, but I didn't completely hate this movie. Actually, it was quite entertaining. For what it was a perfectly adequate little kids movie. The characters weren't that bad to watch. They have an amusement dynamic with each other, and are pretty fun to watch them banter. The animation is perfectly passable. Nothing amazing though. The action was decent. It's no Kung Fu Panda, but honestly, what is? The comedy is surprisingly effective, and it can catch you off guard easily, especially with their fourth wall jokes.
Wait, that music! Hey, this is the training montage, isn't it? Hey, can't we just skip ahead to the part where I'm good?
No, this is my favorite part where you suffer.
There's this one fourth wall joke near the climax of the movie. The characters are rushing to the evil guy's palace and loops around the slide transition to get there faster. That's already a pretty good joke. But then the big cat sumo wrestler falls halfway through, and then there's a shot that shows a movie theater with people running away from him. I'm sorry, but that's pretty funny. Now don't get me wrong, this isn't a good movie per se. It's very cliche, the backgrounds look cheap, and it has really slow pacing. Also, I watched the UK version, so I don't know if that swayed my opinion, but nonetheless, it's a perfectly fine movie for kids.
You are either very lucky or very unlucky.
Luck is perfectly fine. I don't really have that much to say. It's just a passable children's movie. And for what it was charming, I guess. The world building is pretty imaginative and clever, to be fair. The characters are likable enough, even though they're not particularly interesting. And the last 20-ish minutes are admittedly pretty sweet. And there was this really cool concept they did. Basically, there's this unlucky side of the luck dimension. And at first it seems to be this unwelcoming place with mean people. But later on, it's revealed to be this quite welcoming place.
Shot. Figured that way everybody could experience a little bit of, you know what I mean?
The people that live there are just down on their luck. Similarly to the main character. That was actually really clever. But even with these things, it's still a 6 out of 10 movie. The story is just whatever. The structure is also weird. There's just a lot of repetition in the script with characters going like, hey, we have to go here to solve your problem. Oh wait, that didn't work. Turns out we have to go here. Oh wait, that didn't work. Turns out we have to go here. Oh wait, that didn't work. Turns out we have to go here. Oh wait, that didn't work. Turns out we have to go here. Turns out we have to go here. And it just gets bland after a while. And the animation is definitely pretty to look at, but it still looks really boring. The movements are way too clean and perfect. It kind of makes it feel like an AI animated it. That probably sounds very disrespectful.
Me personally, I wouldn't take this level of disrespect.
But that's just kind of how it looks. And the characters, as likable as they are, can't really make up for these problems. But hey, it's still decent. And who knows? Maybe this new animation studio will make a masterpiece later down the road. It's possible. I'm pretty sure they don't have a producer that was an ex-Disney and Pixar executive that was booted off the company for gross harassment accusations. Anyways, moving on.
I count money. I count money.
My fellow Gentleminions, I've come to announce that Minions Rise of Gru is the best film ever made. The part where Gru rose, I nearly shed a tear. Absolute cinema is the best film I've ever seen in my life. Okay, for real. I kinda hate that I kinda enjoyed this movie. By no means is a quality film. Actually, let's get the bad stuff out the way now. The annoying minion shenanigans in this movie are exactly what I expected to be. It's really tiring at this point. They have a karate subplot in here for some reason. It feels very forced, and they only train for like 3 minutes. You can take that subplot out and nothing would change. The characters aren't really that well developed or interesting, and you know, it's Illumination, so the animation isn't really that particularly great. But even with these problems, I found it to be quite an enjoyable film. It almost reminds me of the first Despicable Me, and I was getting little nostalgic goosebumps to every little callback they did. Like the cheese race scene mirroring the freeze race scene from the first movie, and learning the origins of Dr. Nefario. It's really cool. The movie goes for a 70s aesthetic, and I think that's pretty neat. Also, I like the relationship between Gru and Wild Knuckles. It's a pretty good dynamic, and it goes great with the things that we learn in Despicable Me movies. Surprisingly, this is a solid prequel.
You don't want to cross me?
Not to mention, the final battle is pretty epic. Even though they miss one of the biggest opportunities ever, see, before the fight begins, the main villain lady says to Wild Knuckles, "You and what army?" That's your cue to bring in the minions. Like, all of the minions. They're an army. Like, how do you not take the obvious chance? The fucking Smurfs movie did that. How are you gonna let the Smurfs one-up you? Whatever, it's still a fun movie. 6 out of 10.
Come back when you've done something evil to impress me.
Look around you. Imagine dragons.
My Father's Dragon is a really charming movie. While the writing isn't perfect per se, it has some pacing issues which causes the middle to drag, and the world feels a bit empty, but I still really enjoyed it. The opening is actually well done. Watching Elmer and his mom having to leave their old life behind due to financial problems is really captivating, and it's presented in an uncomfortable, realistic way.
I needed you to get out of the truck. That's all. And now I need you to get that kid out of this apartment because I have enough to worry about, okay?
It sets some very clear stakes into the main character's motives. And the ending is also really beautiful. Both Elmer and his mom realized that it was their fear that caused them to lose their grip on their emotions. And the characters felt like they naturally changed at the end. But yeah, this middle drags, but it doesn't outright ruin the movie or anything. Boris the Dragon was pretty annoying at first, but I grew to like him. He's kinda like Diet Burrito from Puss in Boots. Whoops, spoilers for the rest of this list. The monkeys could have been developed a little bit more, but it's fine. There's a good cast of characters, and the animation is just spectacular. I really love 2D animation. I kinda miss it in mainstream modern movies. Overall, I'll say it's a good watch. I'd personally recommend it for a nice, feel-good experience. Man, I should really watch more Krypton Saloon movies, should I?
This film takes place less than a year after the September 11th terrorist attacks.
Finally, a good animated Disney movie from this year. Telluride is a pretty good movie for what it is. Even though the story is very simple for a Pixar movie, and it can feel like it's padding for time at points, it's still told in a very interesting and entertaining way. The animation is really good and very expressive. I have no idea why people complain about it before this movie released. It looks really good. It kind of reminds me of the animation from Captain Underpants. The characters are pretty likable. They're cute, I don't really hate any of them. May's friend circle has this really wholesome bond, and they generally love each other. The comedy is really effective. This is probably the second funniest Pixar movie, right under Monsters Inc. And that combined with the awkwardness this movie has just amplifies the great comedy and timing. The soundtrack is surprisingly fantastic. I don't know why the score goes hard, but it just does. And I hate how much I like the songs from Fort Town. They're kinda bangers, not gonna lie. The 2000 aesthetic is really neat. Kinda gives it an edge over other movies. And the message and themes are pretty good. It's like a lukewarm take of generational trauma compared to Encanto. But it's not bad, and it's definitely more effective than Strange World, I'll say that. I generally really like the conclusion they come to, and it makes for a great final act. Okay, is there anything I didn't really like about this movie? I think May's mom is a bit over-exaggerated. Like, I get what the movie's trying to do with her, but her ultimate choices are pretty silly. Like, why would she assume that the supermarket cashier is messing with her daughter? And why does she try to hand May pads through the school window? Just drop them off at the main office. It's not a big deal. Plus, the red panda symbolism is a bit muddled, because the movie wants it to be some metaphor and a cute mascot character at the same time, and it doesn't work as well as it wanted to. But still, it's a really entertaining movie. It kind of feels more like a DreamWorks movie, and that's not a bad thing at all. I love the fact that it's very experimental compared to other films Pixar made. We kind of missed out on seeing this on the big screen. Come on, Disney. You gotta put Lightyear in theaters, but not this. But whatever, it's still a very enjoyable movie either way.
Y'all seen Blue? Cause that motherfucker owe me $5.
Alright, we're finally in the top 10. We just see nothing but high quality cinema from now on. So without further ado, the number 10 best movie I've seen in 2022 is Blue's Big City Adventure. Now just hear me out. Listen, you might be scratching your head in confusion right now, but if I'm being completely honest, this movie is just really good. Maybe it's my nostalgia talking, but I just thought it was so charming. Josh going through his little stage fright arc is well handled. The movie is surprisingly cinematic too. Like, some shots actually look like they belong in a movie theater. All the side characters are cute and just fun to be around. The songs, while not spectacular, are just so charming and whimsical. The movie is so charming and whimsical. It's so easy to be suckered in by its charm. I just had a big dumbass smile on my face throughout it. And there's some callbacks to both the original show and the recent reboot. The big one is obviously the return of both Steve and Joe, which makes this the definitive version of No Way Home. I'm sorry, I don't make the rules.
What? But you can't do this to me. You know how much I sacrificed?
Okay, this isn't like a 10 out of 10 masterpiece or anything. The story is still extremely simple and the script can be derivative at points. Also, the CGI animation looks pretty off at times. But I don't know, man, it's just so cute. Go watch it. It's only like an hour long anyway, so go ahead.
A few moments later.
Shawn Mendes is a crocodile.
To whoever hates Lyle Crocodile, who hurt you? So anyway, how the fuck is this movie so good? Like, seriously, judging from the trailers and the promotional material, it looks like it was going to be mid. But honestly, no. Lyle Crocodile slaps. It's a movie that me and my friend group just love. And it's probably the closest movie on this list that gave me Beeble vibes.
If I were a rich man.
If you know me, that's a really good thing. This movie is just so charming and cute. Lyle himself is so likable, and the bond he has with his newfound family is so wholesome. Like, seriously, how can you hate this movie? I love the decision to have Lyle only be able to sing, but not talk. It's such a relieving artistic choice the movie makes. Instead of having Lyle make 48,000 quips and jokes like fucking Peter Rabbit or some shit, he's mostly kept silent. It acts like a child filled with curiosity, which makes the scenes where he finally sings all the more impactful. And this is all thanks to the fantastic CGI work. Lyle is made to look very realistic and somewhat scary. Like, you would understand why people would think that he was dangerous. But once the movie reveals his gentle side, he looks rounder, his eyes look bigger, and overall looks more comfortable to approach. And he's very expressive. And it leads to some great comedical moments.
People say, yo, Humpty,
You're really funny looking. That's alright, cause I get things cooking.
Wow, what a concept. A realistic CGI character that can still emote and look appealing to the eyes. If only some companies can get the memo. And the songs this movie has are some bangers. I don't hate a single song. Take a look at this now, it's so catchy and it works well in the story.
Body you work on it turns. So take a look at us now.
And the reprise is great too. On Top of the World and Carried Away works great in their respective parts into the story, even though they might be the weakest with the soundtrack.
At the top of the world tonight, when no one ever has to hide.
And Rev Up the Recipe is probably my favorite song in the whole movie. It's such a bop.
It's perfect unexpectedly when you rip up the recipe.
I don't know, man, this film is just a delight to watch. Yeah, there's a few fart and poop jokes. They're grown worthy. And the black girl character doesn't really do anything in the story until the end. But either way, it's such a fun time. I love watching this big alligator sing its heart out. It's like if Paddington was a musical. It's just really great. But before I move on to the next segment, we need a show adaptation of this. Get the Lion King people to make a Lyle costume, add a few more songs. It will be so epic. Just do it.
La 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 la.
We're the bad guys! Yes! I've always wanted to say that!
Okay, now it's time to talk about DreamWorks' The Bad Guys.
Did someone say bad guys?
Oh my gosh, it's YINSED. What are you doing in my black void?
Listen, buddy, anytime somebody uses the word bad and guys in the same sentence, I'm like instantly there.
Well, that's totally not weird at all. So since you're here, want to briefly share your thoughts on The Bad Guys?
So putting aside my unironic obsession with Sharky for a second, The Bad Guys is pretty much everything I could ask for out of a modern DreamWorks movie. It's got gorgeous animation, an extremely endearing cast of characters that I can't get enough of, and uses its fairly familiar narrative structure to tell a really engaging story about a band of outcasts that become better people. While also being a fun parody of heist movies, making fun of a lot of the tropes that come with them. It's an absolute blast, and I really hope that we can get more sequels and spin-offs to it, even though most of my reasons for that are because of Sharky, but I digress.
What a great way to put it. Well, back to your channel you go.
What? Get out!
P.S. Go see his channel, he's really good. So anyways, The Bad Guys is stellar. It feels so good to have a truly great DreamWorks movie. Right from the opening shot, I was on board with this movie. This movie is just oozing with style. Not just the fantastic animation, which is fantastic, but the cinematography, the editing, the way how these characters move.
By God, look at the animation on Mr. Snake.
It's so hard to hate. Harkening to old heist movies. It's so cool. And the visuals aren't just it. The characters are fun. It has a phenomenal score from Daniel Pemberton. Same person who did the score of Into the Spider-Verse. So yeah, he knows his shit. And the pacing is so well done. Wolf's arc here is great. Admittedly, it's a weaker version of Megamind, but it still stands on its own. Plus, it has this extra layer as well, with Wolf wanting for a clean slate for himself, but also not wanting his friends to get left behind. And this is all exemplified by his relationship with Snake. They were well established from the start, with excellent dialogue and acting. And when their friendship is put to the test, it's believable how both of them act.
Gary, I'm tired of being an outcast. Maybe I don't want to be a...
What? A bad guy? Don't want to be a bad guy anymore, huh? Say it, Wolf.
It's really well done. Now, if there's some problems I have with this movie, well, one, the comedy isn't great per se. I'm sorry if I wasn't slapping my knee every time Mr. Piranha farted. I know that was in the book too, but come on, man. 2, the twist villain is very predictable. But hey, at least he gets an entire third act to be the villain. I can't say that for most Disney twist villains.
That was his mistake.
3, Piranha, Tarantula, and Shark barely get anything to do in this movie, which kind of sucks because Shark has peak character design. And lastly, 4, there are some plot holes and contrivances in this script. Like, how did Marmalade expect Wolf to stop and wag his tail during his speech? That seems pretty far-fetched. Why did Wolf try to steal a diamond when Diane told him it was a trap?
Because maybe it's a trap.
Or maybe...
Wait.
I mean, it was funny and all, but wouldn't Wolf be a bit more smarter than that? And I totally don't buy the BS with Marmalade being the old lady. Like, there was no foreshadowing during that scene. I felt like the writers pulled that right out of their ass. But it doesn't matter because this movie is good. Such a great return to form for DreamWorks. No more of this boss baby and trolls shit. DreamWorks is done with that. They're making classics from now on. And with that being said, I can't wait for Trolls 3.
Basically, it looks like I'm gonna have to come.
Okay, I'm just gonna say it now. I did not at all like the first Sonic movie. Do you want to know why? Well, here's my issue. For a movie that is called Sonic the Hedgehog, I expect there to be more Sonic elements in it. Like, the only Sonic elements in this movie are Sonic, Robotnik, Knuckles' tribe in the beginning, and Tails at the end. The rest is just a boring copy and paste road trip movie that isn't that creative or fun. It's a snooze fest, and honestly it would have kept my attention if they kept the original design of Sonic. That design is just holy cow. So it really shocks me that they made a really good movie out of its sequel. Okay, I'm just gonna get the bad things out the way now. Tails is kind of shafted in this movie, not gonna lie. It's kind of like Luigi in the new recent Mario movie. By the way, I made a review of it. You should go check it out if you want to. It seems like Tails had to make room for Knuckles in this story, and that honestly just kind of sucks, unfortunately. The pacing is a bit slow at times, and the wedding subplot is spectacularly pointless. Like, it deserves an award for being the most pointless scene in cinematic history. Robotnik flosses at one point.
If you don't know how to floss, you'll be lost without me.
Stop it. Get some help.
Okay, it's time to gush about this movie now. This movie is so fun. Not only did they ditch the boring human stuff from the first movie, mostly, but they have a plot that aligns with the games more, and a fun and interesting plot on top of that. Sonic and Tails have a very cute brotherly bond in this movie. It's so cute to watch them interact with each other. Tails' voice actress is great as always. Knuckles is so hyped to see on the big screen, and watching the trio together in the climax is just amazing. Robotnik is more entertaining in this movie. I don't know what made me like him more in this movie, but I just did. I don't know, man, he just did more impactful things in this movie, and was more of a threat. Plus, they gave him this sexy mustache. Agent Stone, the GOAT, is great. And overall, it's just a really fun movie that adapts the games really well. I can't wait for the sequel.
Do I look like I need your power?
Nigga!
Intergalactic is such a good movie. Well, actually, it was made as a miniseries during production, but was released as a film assumingly last minute, which is so odd because it works perfectly as a film, unlike something like Wendell and Wild, which was written as a feature-length film, but felt like a rushed miniseries. But enough about Mid, because Intergalactic is anything but. Watching the blooming love between Jabari and Meadow, you can see them inspiring each other's good sides, and feel genuinely in love with each other. Contrast with the nothing relationship that Jabari had with Carmen.
Oh wait, there's a rat in your apartment.
Oh shit! A rat!
And yeah, there's a misunderstanding near the third act, but both parties don't act out of character to make drama in the plot. Jabari wants Meadow to know that he's trustworthy, and is willing to do anything for her because he's the first woman that he's genuinely loved. And Meadow is worried if things are happening too fast. They both act like human beings, and the animation is so good. Like, this was supposed to be a mini-series? It's clearly imitating Spider-Verse, and they fucking succeeded with that because it looks spectacular. And with great cinematography to boot. The comedy is honestly hit or miss. It has that adult animation syndrome where the movie feels the need to swear or reference adult topics to be funny. It's not as egregious as other adult animated projects I've seen, but still. Also, there's some very steamy sex scenes in this movie, and yeah, I was honestly uncomfortable during those scenes. That might say a lot about me, but I don't know. But nevertheless, this film is great. Seriously, go see it if you haven't.
Try Fat Burger from now on. You get yourself a double cheese with fries for $2.95.
Whenever I tuned into Adult Swim in 2014 up until I stopped using cable, I would watch Bob's Burgers almost religiously along with other Fox shows, like American Dad and Family Guy.
Hi, Dad.
I wouldn't call myself a diehard fan per se, but whenever I watched it, it was such a delightful and charming show. And thankfully, I can say the same for its movie. This movie has no right to slap as hard as it does. The characters are perfectly adapted to the big screen. The plot, while nothing grand, is intriguing to watch unfold. The fact that it's musical and the songs are great, especially Sunny Side of Summer and Lucky Ducks. Those two are bangers. Yeah, this movie's just too hard to hate. Maybe the movie could have more songs because there's only like 4. The town feels weirdly empty for some reason. And not really a complaint, but it's kind of weird that Bob only has a B plot in this movie and Louise has the main plot. Like, it's called the Bob's Burgers movie. What the fuck? But it really doesn't matter because this movie is so charming and cute. Go watch it. Maybe the show if you haven't, because that show is also cute. Plus, where the fuck is a Family Guy movie? Come on, Fox. I need it!
Let me take you on a real boy adventure. Real boy adventure!
Okay, you might be surprised that Guillermo GTT's Pinocchio is not at the top of this list. Don't get me wrong. This movie is such a beautiful letter to film and animation. But it's not perfect. And I think it's best if we get the negatives out the way first. The film kind of drags in the middle. The circus show side plot isn't as interesting as the film think it is. And in turn, the circus leader guy is a weak villain. He does at least work for this type of story, but he's pretty cliche and not that memorable. Honestly, I think they should have made the Nazi camp guy the main villain. Jiminy Cricket is kind of useless in this. Weirdly, he hangs with Geppetto more than Pinocchio in this. At least he gets Geppetto to come to his senses and go search for Pinocchio. Also, this really gets on my nerves. But why does every single Pinocchio adaptation always never have him go to school? Like, you would think that would lead to a strong motivation for why he wants to run off to the circus, since he had a terrible day at school. Okay, now it's time to talk about the good stuff, because holy moly, the GTT cooked here. Even if it's the usual Pinocchio retelling, it goes for a very different and bold artistic direction. And even if some directions they took can feel a bit cluttered and convoluted, they work for the most part, and makes this take of Pinocchio so unique. The characters are so deep and complex. Pinocchio feels real and fully realized as a kid who was literally just born yesterday. You can feel the turmoil that Geppetto has to face, with him literally losing his son, and having to now suddenly raise a careless, clueless one. It's such a smart choice to have him create Pinocchio while he was drunk. Pinocchio literally represents his reckless grieving. It's really clever, and I love how they replaced Pleasure Island with a war camp. It gives off a super unsettling vibe, and the score is so phenomenal, and the stop motion animation is just gorgeous and fantastic to look at, with fantastic character and set design. This is such a great film, and the only 2022 Pinocchio film you should see. And I'm serious, do not watch those other 2 pieces of shit. Not good enough for the top spot, but still extremely good.
Love really makes a guy come out of his shell.
I have no idea I'd love Marcel the Shell with shoes on this much, but I just did.
You what?
This was literally the last film I watched in 2022. Literally on New Year's Eve. And I really ended off with a bang.
Oh, this is good. This is peach syrup. Tinned peach syrup. What a drink!
Despite having a weak opening 20 minutes, it tells a really captivating story about Marcel finding his family. The documentary tone adds so much to its wholesome characters and world building. Marcel is such an endearing character. I love his interactions with his grandmother and Dean, the guy making the documentary. I love the fact that Dean warms up to Marcel as the film goes on. It's a really touching relationship, and I think this movie works as well as it does because of the fantastic dialogue. I just love the type of dialogue that is more improv and down to earth in media. It always adds an extra layer of realism and believability to the characters. There's just so much to love about this movie.
I gotta tell you, it was perfect. Perfect. Everything, down to the last minute details.
It's genuinely fantastic. Go watch it. It's best to go in as blind as possible.
You're a pussy. You're a pussy.
If you were to tell me that DreamWorks decided to release a sequel to an 11-year-old Shrek spinoff, and that sequel would be one of the best things they have ever made, I would have called you crazy. But by God, did DreamWorks actually do it. Puss in Boots: The Last Switch is easily top 5 DreamWorks films, and it's not even a contest. Like, I'm still surprised they made like a really good movie out of this sequel to this film I do not even care about. The story is written so well. Watching Puss come to the terms of his own mortality makes for a very engaging experience that can actually get very unnerving at times. You can fully understand the choices he decides to make in this movie, even if it's ultimately not good ones. He makes for a great protagonist because you want him to overcome this hurdle in his life. Kitty from the first movie has a little side arc here too, about learning to trust people, and is handled great as well. And Perito is such an endearing character here. It's weird because based off the marketing, he looked like he was going to be very annoying. But no, he's probably like my second favorite character here. He's kind of like Donkey from the first Shrek movie. just a character who sees the good in the main protagonist and actively help him succeed in the end. These characters are just perfectly written, and they're a treat to watch. And speaking of a treat to watch, holy shit, is the animation so good. Spider-Verse was the fucking blueprint, because oh my god, do I love how animated films are getting more stylized ever since. The colors just leap off the screen, and the action scenes are staged and storyboarded fantastically. I don't know why I did not watch this in the theater. I really missed out. And this movie juggles 3 villains, but never feels bloated. You got the sympathetic villains with the 3 bears that naturally sides with the protagonist near the end. Goldie has such an understandable goal and motives that leads to good drama with her bear family. It's really well done. You got the mean-tastic baddie that is Jack Horner.
You're an irredeemable monster! What took you so long, nigger?
Not only is he freaking hilarious, but he's also a legitimate threat to our main characters. He's just a saint of a character, and I love to watch him because it is just fucking hilarious.
You're not gonna shoot a puppy, are you, Jack?
Yeah, in the face. Why?
But both of these villains do not even come close to Death. Death can literally rival the Kung Fu Panda villains. That's how good he is. Not only does he have a fantastic design, not only that he's so threatening that his whistle could have your spine shivering, not only he's very capable of doing his plans, seeing that he made Puss literally fucking bleed, but he is literally the physical manifestation of death.
Pick it up.
He's a representation of Puss's fear, and in turn makes us, the audience, fearful too. Because if he wanted to, he could literally kill Puss at any moment. That makes a great villain, people. This is such a great fucking movie. If you have not watched it, what are you doing? Please do so. Movies like these do not come often, people. And with that all said, this film isn't even my number 1. So what is better than this in my opinion? Let's go see. Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the movie. Yes, my favorite movie of 2022 is an adaptation of a TV series. You might be wondering why this is my number 1, especially since I did love Puss in Boots 2. Well, to be frank, it's just a movie I have little problems with. The story is so rich and has a great dark tone. The characters have such a great chemistry with each other and feel like they know one another for their whole lives. The villains are incredibly threatening. The animation, oh god, the animation is really fucking beautiful, and specifically the third act is especially probably the best third act I've ever seen in my life. It's just the definition of beauty. I could not recommend this film enough. Please go watch it if you haven't. I'm so sad that Nickelodeon did release this on the big screen, but even if it wasn't, I have no problem calling this my favorite movie of 2022. Thanks so much for watching this video. It really means a lot to me. And a huge thanks for my editors for taking the time out of their day to help me out with this big project. These editors are JThePlante, Carlos, Dezzy, Timey, Random, ReVirtual, and Broke Jesus. This video would not get done without them. They all have social media that you should all go follow. Links are in the description. Again, like and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. I'm on Twitter and Letterboxd if you want to hear me crack jokes and share more terrible opinions. But with all that said, see you guys later.